What is up, my nerds? Welcome back to another episode of The Nerdy Mind. Yes, I am happier today because I'm actually on the back end of my ear infection, so I'm feeling 1,000% better. And I appreciate you all being very patient with me and not giving me flack for having just like a 20-minute episode. I was actually in a lot of pain when that happened, and I was trying to fight through it, but I couldn't. If you ever had an ear infection before, they're not fun. They're not fun at all, and I had 2 of them. So we are here, and I'm going to give you a full episode this time. And who's on the podcast today is Jason, and he's representing Maryland pretty hard right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just so happens.
Maryland pride, baby. Yeah, it's all good. So Jason, last time I was when I was recording, I actually seen the Flash movie with a couple of my friends, and you have not seen it yet, right?
I have not. No, yeah. I remember I was
to see it.
Not as of yet. I remember I asked you, like, is it worth seeing it in theaters? Because I'm more of a Marvel fan. I feel like we've discussed this before, but so like DC, I'll see DC movies regardless. You know, every time there's like Batman versus Superman, Justice League, all that. Like I do watch them, but I don't always see them in theaters, and so kind of listening to your episode talking about it, I kind of decided I'll probably just wait until it comes out, like on HBO Max or Max now. Yeah. So I don't have plans.
What's funny is that a lot of the guys I went with are actual Marvel fans as well, but a lot of them do dabble with some DC characters that they love. Like one of my buddies, Zach, who you all have seen on the podcast before, is actually a huge Flash fan. He loves Flash. Not Ezra Miller's Flash, but he loves Flash, like Grant Gustin's Flash. He loves a lot. The overall character. My buddy Bobby, who came with us, he's a big Superman fan. Superman is actually one of his I think either his top character he loves the most, or whatsoever. And my buddy Jordan is actually a huge X-Men fan, so he's not really like big into either one. He just loves X-Men and stuff.
I was gonna say X-Men is Marvel, but it's kind of detached from Marvel a little bit, so it's kind of its own thing. So I feel that. And like I said, like I have no quarrels against any of them. I love Marvel and I love DC. Like Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man. I love X-Men. X-Men was one of my top favorite things to watch as a kid. So going into talk, I'm getting off track, but going into this Flash. So as I discussed in the episode before, this was supposed to be the movie to like set up the DCU. So apparently, according to James Gunn. And watching it, I built it up for myself a lot to where I should have, I should really just know like how DC does things, that like I could be let down. But I'm kind of like that kid who has high hopes for his favorite franchise to like get it right. And so I go into this movie like, okay, I'm waiting for something. I'm waiting for like the thing to light bulb hit in my brain like, oh, this is it. Like this is the reboot. This is the new universe. This is the thing that is going to set up Blue Beetle, Aquaman, and so on. Right.
I didn't get that. I didn't get any of it. I honestly, I tell a lot of my friends, and I think I've told you, like, I left the theater with more questions than answers. Yeah. To this movie.
Yeah, and I feel like you told me that too, and I feel like in terms of like popular movie and like popular movie franchises, you know, like you're watching Harry Potter, Star Wars, like things that have like multiple iterations, there's room for questions. There always is room for questions, because if it's based on another story or something, you know, like it was a comic, it was a book, whatever, you kind of have some things that aren't said in the movies because they can't cover everything.
Yeah.
It leaves you a little wondering, but when you're finishing a movie and you feel like you have a lot of unanswered questions, especially with like, you know, superhero movies based on comic books, you're like, I should know a lot of this information already from comics and stuff, from pop culture, and I feel like I have no idea what's going on. It kind of leaves you wanting because you want some of those questions answered in the movie or like hinted to so you could look it up. But like, there's way too much left unsaid. It's like, I don't know if I'm looking forward to the next movie because it might explain it, or if it's just going to pretend like the last movie explained everything, and then I'm just still going to be frustrated. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this, but with Hollywood, I don't know why they do this. They pick things out of certain stories, and then they pick other things out of certain stories, and they mold them together into one blob of a story.
Yeah.
As a fan who has watched Flashpoint, the animated one, who's read the book on Flashpoint, who has seen other adaptations of the multiverse theory in DC. So, like, they took the theory of Flashpoint, right? They just took that, and then they merged it with a different story.
Yep.
They molded together into what this movie was. To someone who knows each of these stories, kind of makes it very confusing, and I think that's the problem. Is instead of, for like Hollywood, why I don't understand why they can't just like take a thing, like, okay, you know what we're gonna do, guys? We want to reboot the DCU. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna make Flashpoint. That's what it's gonna be. They could just been like Flash, or like the Just League Flashpoint or something like that, right? And then taken the actual story of Flashpoint and just make it live action. Like, I don't understand why they can't just take the story that's already made and have to like, oh, we're going to put a twist on it.
It's so, and this is something that I've heard discussed before and I've discussed with other people, is when you change mediums from like a comic to a movie to a show, a book to a show, like any kind of medium transfer, you can't exactly copy and paste. But if it's a good story, you should be able to take that as the structure. And then like, the hero, gets like blown up by a rocket or something. It's like, okay, in the movie, that's not going to happen because you visually see it and it just doesn't look right. Maybe he gets crushed by a bus or something. Like, they can change things around and still have the same premise, but follow the same
blocks.
Arc. Exactly. Yeah. If you like take the building blocks and then you just rearrange them and then throw a bunch of other blocks in, it's not the same story anymore. And people who are, what you should imagine when you're making a movie, if it's based on something like, again, to reference like Harry Potter, Star Wars, people who are going to see that, everybody's going to see it. There's going to be people who have never seen the story that are coming to see it. But when you make a movie, when you make a book, when you make anything, you have a target audience. Yeah. And there are people who are fans of that medium, of that, that franchise. And if you're not targeting to them at all, they're just going to get frustrated because, oh, I read all the comics, I've seen all the movies, I've seen the TV shows. This is going to be so cool because they said it's Flashpoint. You go and you're like, it's not.
Yeah.
Why did they lie to me? Who is part of the target audience? Like, yes, there's gonna be people who've never seen it, but
yeah. Have you seen the Flashpoint animated movie?
I feel like I might have. I've seen a lot of DC stuff animated. Like I've read some of the comics and stuff. It's just, I feel like overwhelmingly I've kind of immersed myself with Marvel, so I don't really remember all the storylines from DC. But I feel like I have. It sounds familiar.
So, the story of Flashpoint is pretty simple. It's the main premise of the movie. They took that building, like that's what I said. They took that building block of this actual new Flash movie that's out. Barry is talking to Iris about his mom. Like, it was like the anniversary of his mom's death, and like he's at the grave and he's talking to Iris about like everything. He's still feeling the pain of his mom not being with him. And that's when he puts on the suit and just decides just to start running. And he runs faster than he meant to. And then he arrives back in time. He prevents his mom from dying because he was at that point. And then he runs back, and then he realizes that real quickly he doesn't have his powers again. Like, he doesn't have his powers anymore. He notices that when he's at like there's slightly minor changes that he starts to realize, like he doesn't have his powers. His mom comes to the office where he works as like a criminal investigator. So like she's there and he freaks out because she's alive. And then he notices Superman's not around. And he notices that like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, they're beefing with each other because, in like the real universe, they're friends, but in this universe, they've had a long feud.
And the Atlanteans have been
they have long feud together. So they're really starting to create a war on the lands, like to raise a war.
I feel like I have seen this animated. Yeah. Because I remember they're at war with each other. Yeah.
And besides the point, so it's almost like this movie. Long story short, Flash ends up fixing the universe. He ends up fixing it, doing what he had to do. Let's finish the animated. So with this movie, it's almost like they took a cinder block, started building with cinder blocks, right, as their foundation, and then all of a sudden they're like, we ran out of cinder blocks, so we're gonna make it with styrofoam, and it became unstructured like that because there's one thing that they could have done in this actual movie that I probably would have forgave them for everything else. And is that they didn't have Thomas Wayne as Batman in this movie. Granted, I love Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's one of my favorite Batmans. I started watching the first Batman movie I've ever seen.
I think
was
same.
Batman.
Yeah,
with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Love it. It's still in my top tier movies. But Michael Keaton isn't in another Bruce Wayne isn't in Flashpoint. It's supposed to be Thomas Wayne. Again, I get it. It's not the same storyline chain. Like I understand that. But if you're going to make a Flashpoint movie, just stick to like the building blocks. Stick to, it doesn't have to be like, oh, well, Flash gets hit by a bullet in this scene. So we're not going to do that. We're going to make him get hit by a bus, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But don't change the building blocks.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in comics, and I know this is in Marvel, and I feel like it's probably in DC to some degree too. I'm not fully immersed, but like there's different universes. There's like different universes where different things happen. And so there technically could be a universe where Flashpoint happens and it's Bruce Wayne and not Thomas Wayne. But that's not the story that was really ever told. So it's like, it's kind of weird to be like, this is the story, but we're changing it. But it's in a different universe where this does happen. It's like, well, why not just keep it as Thomas Wayne? You could have still had Michael Keaton too, and it just would have been Thomas Wayne. It would have been the dad, but like,
This is why I hate multiverse theory crap, because then they can always write it off. Well, this isn't the same universe, right?
When it comes to the comics, having multiple universes is cool because they can tell a different story. Something happens differently, but when it's comics, they don't just say, "Hey, remember that story? Story 105. We're just going to make this one just like 105, but change this one minor detail." Because then no one's going to read the comic because it's the exact same story with a minor change. Right. But like you said, when it comes to putting it on a screen, that gives the directors creative liberty to be like, "Oh, well, we'll just change whatever we want, and it's just a different universe." It's like, no, that's not okay.
It's for true fans like me who loves the Flashpoint animated movie, who I rewatch it all the time. And then I'm thinking that like they're actually going to create a live action version of it and looking forward to something like that. And then you don't get that. It's very disappointing. Yeah. Again, like I get it. It's a minute detail. Okay, Bruce is a different Bruce Wayne in this universe, but I'm like, but the whole theory of like, it's Thomas Wayne who's Batman, and he's like a badass Batman too.
Yeah,
because I was guns.
I was gonna say I remember watching this now, and I remember that being such a cool thing because a lot of the premise of Batman is based upon Bruce's parents dying and being killed by a gun, and that's why he doesn't use guns. But in this universe where Thomas Wayne becomes Batman, he doesn't have any quarrels with using guns because he never had that traumatic incident happen to him. So he's just like running around shooting people and stuff, and you're like, this is interesting because this is not Batman. This is not Batman how I know him, but this is really, really cool to watch,
Yeah. And you get to see because like because Thomas Wayne, he was like an adult at this point when Bruce dies in that storyline, and so he has no quarrels with doing what he has to do to get things done,
because he's probably already
he kills people
stuff. Yeah,
he kills people. He does what he has to do to get the information he needs. Bruce Wayne's mother is the Joker in that storyline. There is no other Joker. She is the Joker because she went insane.
Yep.
And then just seeing the whole like Barry trying to get his powers back, and then seeing the quarrels of like what would have been the greatest thing on the big screen is seeing like Gal Gadot Wonder Woman and Jason Momoa's Aquaman fighting it out on the TV on the big screen. And like you see Amazonian warriors, women fighting these Atlanteans,
and again
on
because they've had the Wonder Woman, and I would say Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, the Justice League movie, and they've had the Aquaman movie. Like they have background for some of the characters in like you would recognize some of the Amazonians, you'd recognize some of the Atlanteans, and so you'd be like, oh, that's so interesting because like I've seen them before as like characters, but they weren't relevant to the story necessarily because Wonder Woman's the main character, Aquaman's the main character, but to see them in battle fighting each other and stuff too, it'd be like, that's really interesting to watch. And again, because if Barry's going to go ahead and like fix everything or whatever at the end, they're going to, some new universe, something's going to, restart, then it doesn't matter if you have these people killing each other and stuff, because you can go straight back to like the regular universe of them just being alive or whatever, because this never happened. So it's like, why not follow, Flashpoint and actually have these battles and stuff that are going to draw people in, like you put that as a coming attraction, and people are like, whoa, like watching Aquaman and Wonder Woman fighting, and you're like, what's happening there? Like people who've never seen this storyline are going to be so enthralled, and then like watching this battle, and it's not even central to the whole plot of the thing. It's just like a side thing going on. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and like, there's one thing that you could put in there that why people might say, well, they can't do Flashpoint. Reverse Flash. Right. He's never been introduced into the Justice League. Right. I get it. You can't really put him in. So that's fine. You don't have to have Reverse Flash in there. Barry's the one who fucks everything up. Okay, cool. You've already explained that in the movie. So you don't have to have Reverse Flash in there. But you could have the other characters that have already been introduced into this DC universe.
Yeah.
And Shazam could have been in the movie too, because the Shazam family has already been introduced. If Shazam is in this technical universe, you know what I'm saying? So like I already can create a better movie than what they did.
And I was going to say too, like the Reverse Flash thing, the whole Reverse Flash thing, if they really wanted to introduce him later down the line, if they want to keep this franchise going and they want to introduce him, they could even have like clips from this movie where in the future they have like Reverse Flash and he's like, I was watching you, in every universe or something, and just like have scenes of him just like during these battles and stuff, just watching from afar, even if he's not like, he's supposed to be in Flashpoint, but just have him be in Flashpoint but not interacting with Barry at all. It's like slightly different than what the story would have been, but then you're like, oh, he was there. And then people who are diehard fans are like, yeah, he was there. He just wasn't interacting this time. Like, oh, he was just watching it all happen. You could do that.
And you could even, honestly, now that I think about it, you could even introduce Reverse Flash in this movie. Yeah. Because Reverse Flash isn't from the same timeline. He's from the future. Yeah. So he's angry at Barry for getting all the spotlight for being the quickest, fastest speedster. That's why he goes back in time to kill Barry, so that way he doesn't exist.
It's the dumbest thing.
Yeah. But he is a great he's a great villain,
He is. It's just it's such a funny premise that it's like, I'll show him, I'll go back in time and kill him off so that I'm the fastest. It's like, just calm down.
Yeah, man, sociopath, man, damn. But like, it's like little things like that kind of like made me really upset with the movie. Granted, the movie was okay. I'll give the movie a 7. It was good. It was funny, but there were things like where they did not hit the mark for me, man. Where I'm like, I'm kind of nitpicking right now, but I'm just like, this is like your last hurrah. Like, why not? And granted, Michael Keaton in the movie was great. His fight scenes were pretty badass, to be honest.
And that's what I'm saying though too, is like they could have kept him as Thomas Wayne and just had Michael Keaton play Thomas Wayne, because it's not like every iteration of Batman has to be the same actor going forward. You know, like they have different actors, and there are people nowadays who'd be watching this movie who have never seen that movie, never seen him as Batman, and so it's just like, oh, this Batman is so cool. You know, like they could have done a lot with that. And I'm not I'm not saying they should have replaced Michael Keaton. It's perfectly fine to have him. It still would have been really badass. Just make him a different person as Batman. Yeah. Make him Thomas Wayne like he should have been.
And swapping out Kara with Supergirl, and then not having, Clark in as Superman in this movie, it's okay. I mean, she did really well. She was a very convincing Supergirl, Kara. I liked her as Supergirl. She did really well performance, but again, with the Flashpoint movie, you have Superman who landed in Russia, so he's in. They took pieces of it,
because that's another storyline, isn't it? That's that's a storyline. Like I've seen that animated. Yeah,
where like Superman lands in Russia instead of the United States.
Yeah,
so
he's like part of the Soviet Union,
and red soldier. So they kind of took that part, but then like they also took the part of Flashpoint where like they captured her. She's been held captive and she's weakened because she hasn't absorbed sunlight. Where in the Flashpoint movie, Superman is still Superman, but he's like super weak, super scrawny because he's never like absorbed radiation from the sun and stuff like that. So they took that adaptation, but it just like swapped characters. So it's like, again, you're picking and choosing building blocks when you could just had the whole building block. But again, I'm not gonna like keep harping on this movie, but it's just something that, like, to me personally, it could be easier. But I just feel like these writers or these executives decide that, like, that story is its story. We're gonna make it better, or we're gonna make It
also just kind of comes down to, and like, I have no problem with this, but like, I feel like nowadays they definitely try to be more inclusive to all groups, to all backgrounds. And so they're like, a lot of people like Superman, but like, let's put Supergirl in it because she's a character. Let's have more female roles in this. And I was like, I get that. Yeah. But like, you could have, again, followed the actual storyline, how Gal Gadot and all the Amazonians, and you'd have a bunch more female representation in the movie. And just have Superman and have him be scrawny like he is in Flashpoint. And it's like, you still get the same thing, but you're just like, I want the big name to be Supergirl. And it's like, but Wonder Woman and all the Amazonians, like, why? Like, you just taking a different approach you think is better. And maybe it was a funding thing. Maybe if they had Gal Gadot, they had all these, they'd have to pay a whole bunch more money to get this cast. And like, I get it, but also why,
Yeah. And like, I get it. Like, you want to be inclusive, and I totally understand.
Yeah,
but we've never been introduced to Supergirl. She's never been introduced in the universe. So why not wait to introduce her and give her own standalone movie, which she is getting?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like
introduce her in her spotlight. Movie. Yeah, introduce her in her movie, so you can go really into the character, get the whole background and everything, and then introduce her into the franchise in another movie or something, rather than like just kind of throwing her in there without really introducing her. And there's this whole other plot going on that you have to follow. And then like, then she gets a movie where you go into her background. It's like, I don't know.
I could see her like having her own movie where she finally comes to Earth, right? Meets Superman. Superman like trains her up. And then that's when you can start setting up, because then you have Blue Beetle coming out. Then you could have Brave and the Bold movie. So you could introduce to Damian Wayne. You could have a Teen Titans movie where she joins the Teen Titans, and then you have your own thing there.
I just
created something.
I feel like, and again, I don't see the whole picture because I'm not someone producing these movies. I'm not someone writing these movies. I always get this feeling that Marvel, when they're planning their movies, are thinking like 5 movies ahead. Like, if we do this now, we can like down the line do this, and this. Whereas DC, I feel like they're planning 1 movie ahead at a time, and it's like, I feel like you should be planning more so that you can introduce more things. You can have an expansive universe, and now they're trying to do that more. But like, this movie didn't seem, and again, I didn't see the movie, but based on what you've said, it doesn't seem like a step in that direction to be more expansive. And like you said, you got Teen Titans, you got all these things you could start making movies of and start like bringing these characters in, but they're just let's do this movie because people like this storyline, but let's change the whole storyline. Then why did you do the movie?
I'll just say this, and then I'll just kind of stop beating this dead horse. But like, I don't see where they're gonna go next because you got Blue Beetle coming out. Like, is Blue Beetle gonna be the next? Like, is the start of the new DCU, or is Aquaman 2 gonna be the new, or is Aquaman 2 still the old? Because he was in this movie,
right,
and stuff like that. So it's like, is he gonna be? You know what I'm saying? Like how, where, like, that's why I'm like left for more answers, and I guess time will tell. But it also makes me not want to like invest my whole time into this this series. And like, it's sad. Like, I'll keep watching the animated stuff and keep reading the comics and watching their anime stuff, but it makes me not want to like get super excited and invest my time into this story, and kind of want to take a step back, be more reserved, and kind of like switch to just sticking with Marvel for now, because they kind of have their shit together. And I'm just hoping James Gunn really does have a full control and idea of what he wants to do.
Maybe this movie was not the best start in doing that, but maybe going forward, the next couple movies will really kind of tie everything in and start going in that direction. Maybe we can only hope,
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that I can say that who does have their stuff together for now, and it is actually Sony and Final Fantasy, or Square Enix, I should say. Square Enix, because Final Fantasy 16 came out, and I've been anticipating this game. I've been watching the trailers for it. It looks super good. So good. And my cousin Tyler, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, he is a huge Final Fantasy fan, like me. He's not like, I would say like he's super fanboy, where he's like every game is the greatest game that they make. So it's actually kind of hard for him to get excited for certain games because he can be very particular and picky. So I woke up this morning because he bought it over the, I guess, when it came out, and he was telling me the night before, he was like, "Hey, I just bought Final Fantasy 16. I'll let you know how it is because I know you want to know." And I was like, "Yes, definitely let me know." I wake up to a text this morning in all caps, "Dude, you've got to buy this game. It's amazing." And for him to give like a standing ovation for a game like that has me super excited that it's definitely like the next step to like these next generation consoles. So yeah, I know you have a PS5, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and that's the thing, is I haven't played a lot of the Final Fantasy games. So like, I would be interested in playing it. I'm probably going to end up watching you play or something and just kind of see how it is. But like you said, to take a step back, Sony does have, or Square Enix has their shit together, because, if there's 16 of these games now and people are still fanning over them, like, they're obviously doing something right. Like, how many video game franchises have a 16th game? Like, that's just, that's crazy. And so, yeah, no, I definitely am interested. I definitely have to see how it is, because like I said, the only I think Final Fantasy I've played Crystal Chronicles, and I've played 7 and the remake, at least part of the remake of 7. So like, I kind of have like an older picture of what Final Fantasy is, so I don't know what the newer games are like. So I'd be interested in seeing.
Well, I mean, at least with the remake, you played the first part. So you kind of got an idea on what Square Enix is kind of going with now.
Right.
A lot of people, there's one person I talked to recently where they're like, they don't like the direction that Square Enix is going. They're like, I really want a turn-based game. And I was like, that's your opinion. I mean, you can have that opinion, like you want them to go back to a turn-based.
Everyone
but I'm
has opinions.
I think, yeah. But he was like, no, my opinion's right. It's correct. I'm like,
yeah,
that's bold. That is very bold for you to say that,
especially because games used to be turn-based. That used to be the big thing, and now it really isn't. Like Pokemon still kind of has that, but that's like one of the only franchises that still has consistently done kind of turn-based.
Right.
So yeah.
And I played some indie games that are turn-based.
Yeah.
You know, some like Dragon Quest or some other like I think it's I forget the name of it. Oh, Chain Echoes. Chain Echoes is like an indie game, has turn-based, but it's a different style of turn-based. They kind of create their own thing, so it makes it kind of unique.
Right.
That's fine. But to me, I think turn-based is dead. I think it's a dead platform.
Again, yeah,
in my opinion.
You can make new games that are turn-based, but like you can't take existing franchises and then steer them back in that direction because people and it's a whole long-running thing with like attention spans and, you know, planning and stuff. Like, you know, how many people probably back in like the, you know, I don't even know, like the 70s or 60s, whatever, like how common was it for people to know how to play chess, let's just say? And how many people know how to play chess today? It's like things have kind of gone downhill when it comes to planning ahead and strategy and like attention spans. Like, oh, well, if I hit him now with this thing, then like 3 turns from now I can hit him with this thing. Whereas now it's just like, let me hit him a bunch of times until he's dead. You know, like that's all you're thinking. It's just like spam A, spam B. Like it's just like, okay, you know.
I will counter that with, I don't know if it's that. Because with the new Final Fantasy, you know, that's a good point. You know, I would agree with you. Attention spans are definitely getting shorter, especially with TikTok and everything out now. People want shorter content. I'm saying that as we're making an hour-long podcast episode, but we're interesting, okay? We're interesting enough to
people only listen to the first 10 minutes and then they're off. You know, that's how it works.
But I would say, like, when I played Final Fantasy 15 and they created, or even, let's just say, the remake. You know, when you play the remake, and there's different ways to play. Like, you can go in, start hacking and slashing, and you might make it out. You might be fine. But to be really critical and effective in the game, you need to know how to parry, you need to know how to dodge, you need to know when to switch your heavy attack to your light attack. There is strategy to it. I think me personally, it's almost like an anime when you're watching the hero in battle and he's like just going at it and he's realizing it's not really working out the way he thinks he's working out, so he has to start planning it. That's kind of how I take it when I play these games, where I'll go in head first. And if I start seeing myself getting wrecked, I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back and start being critical about how I'm going to attack and when to use magic and when not to use magic and when to dodge and when not to dodge.
So it's almost like strategy changes, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't say that there's no strategy because you're right. Like any game nowadays, like there really is strategy behind it. Like you play Dark Souls, the same kind of thing. You got to learn how to parry. You got to learn when to dodge, when to attack. But it's less turn-based strategy where you're thinking about what your move will be down the line. Like even like playing Dark Souls or something, you might need to know, you know, I'm hitting and I'm blocking and I'm dodging, but like you're not thinking 2 minutes from now I'm going to have to hit him again. You're just thinking right now I need to dodge. Right now I need to hit. Whereas with turn-based, you're picking what you're doing now, but you're also thinking, you know, a couple moves ahead, what's going to happen. Because if they hit me and they kill this guy or they knock me out, then I'm going to have to use this guy to do this thing. And like you have to kind of have your turns planned out. Whereas now it's still strategy based, but it's again like a faster pace kind of. Yeah.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's more you're thinking on your toes type of strategy than like you have time to like, because like I would even go back to Final Fantasy X, you know, Final Fantasy X, right? I could, if it was my turn, I could sit there and think about, like, for as long as I wanted to, I could just sit there and think, all right, how do I want to do this?
Right.
You know, he keeps hitting me with this certain thing, blah, blah, blah. Where now, you don't really, I mean, you could pause the game and like, all right, what am I gonna do? But you kind of have to think on your toes because that boss or that creature or whatever is gonna continue to come at you.
Yep.
And you need to really be quick to make quick decisions.
Yep.
So, long story short, he texted me saying like this game is amazing, and I saw an article where they're talking about like the next generation consoles, and for Sony it was Final Fantasy 16. They're like, are these games like showing the true like next generation graphics and stuff like that? From what I've seen, and what I've seen, Final Fantasy 16 is pure like amazing 4K HD. It's amazing. Okay. So long story short, I'm really excited to play. I actually bought. I just. It's kind of funny. So I've been holding off to buy a PS5. I haven't really had a reason to buy one. Because there hasn't like I don't really ever buy console when it first comes out.
Yeah, no, me neither.
That's just something I just don't do. I don't know. Like I think the only one that I actually did buy when it first came out was probably the Nintendo Switch.
I want to say maybe the 360 and the Wii for me, but I think with both of those, my brothers and I like put money together so that we could buy it. So like no one of us had to like save up, but that was like way back when, and my brother was the one kind of driving that. But like, since then the Switch,
I think the Wii, I think the Wii was for me as well. But the thing of it is, they had a free game called Wii Sports, and you could play that game for hours.
Yeah. So. You can still go back and play it, and it's still fun. Wii bowling.
It's still fun to this day.
Tennis, just a.
Which they have a new, like, it's not Wii Sports, but they do have the sports game on Switch now, which I have, and it holds up. It's just as good. But like I never buy consoles right when they first come out because some of them like can have bugs and like the first generation, like anything in life, first generation of new car models can be glitchy or anything. They're picking the bugs out.
I'm trying to think because I feel like every console pretty much has had multiple iterations even within the generation. Because like I know the 360 had the Elite, and then like the Xbox One had the Xbox One X, and so like now you got the Series X and Series S, but like maybe down. I mean, look at almost within it is kind of Series X and Series S is kind of multiple iterations, but I'm sure there'll be another iteration of the PS5 or the Xbox One or Xbox Series. I mean, they kind of.
What's kind of cool because I mean it's kind of I guess maybe a bad example, but like PS2, right? You had the PS2 Fat, which was like the OG, and it was the workhorse.
That's the one I had.
And then they created the Slim, which had some issues because of overheating and stuff like that.
Right.
But they had multiple different ones as time went on. Same with the PS4. The PS4 came out, then they had the Pro, and then the 3. They had the Fat version. When it first came out, then they kind of switched it to where it wasn't backwards compatible anymore. They didn't want to spend the money to make it a little bit cheaper, so they kind of took out the backwards compatible for the 3. Then they created a slim version of the 3. Then you had the 4, which had the Pro. Then you have like the newer, slimmer version of the 4 and stuff like that. And then now with all these Xboxes, like you have Xbox X, which is like the big one, it has the bigger graphics card and everything.
Series S, which is the
then you have the S, which is a little bit cheaper, version, a little more. I would say like if you casually game, like whatever, and it's all digital.
Right.
Me personally, I've kind of stepped away from disc versions anyways. Same. I kind of just do digital. I buy an external hard drive and download all my stuff onto there.
And that's something like with the Switch, I really dove into just like, digital, like no physical copies, which I realized down the line, like, 10 years from now or something, like, is that all going to be like, is the network still going to have all my stuff to download and stuff? Like, I don't know. But at least for right now, it's like I don't have to have all these physical things. I can download and delete and stuff.
For me, it's all about space and like how I want to utilize my space. Like upstairs, I have my PS4 and I have a bin full of PS4 games.
Right.
I do have digital versions of my PS4 games, but I also have the physical discs. But for me, as an older person now, and I kind of time is definitely of the essence for me. Where like I rather just quit a game, go to my next. Yes, I am old. Yes. I'd rather just being able to switch games quickly without have to like swap discs and stuff out
anymore. And that's something that the new generations have been focused on too. I don't know, like before I got the PS5, like before my friend bought the PS5 for me as a wedding gift, which is
shout amazing out to my buddy wedding
Tim.
gift.
Yeah. He came into some money and was like, I'm gonna get you whatever you want, man. And I didn't even ask for it. He's like, I'm just gonna get you a PS5. I was like, sweet. But
it's an amazing wedding gift.
I remember when I was looking into like, should I get the Xbox Series X? Should I get the PS5? Like, it was like months after they came out. I was still kind of looking into them because I was thinking about getting something. I have a gaming PC, so I didn't know if I wanted to get an Xbox Series X. It didn't really make sense. But I was just curious about it because I like to keep up on tech, and like seeing that you could have almost like 2 or 3 games that are like technically you're in the game, and then you just like pause, go back to the home screen, open a different game, and then when you just like go back to the home screen, you can click into the other game and you're just still where you were. Like it's running multiple games at the same time. Like it's just so easy to switch between things. Like if you're playing Final Fantasy 16 and then you want to take a step back out and you want to play Fall Guys for like an hour, you can go back into Final Fantasy 16 and it's still at your save. You're not like loading into the game, waiting for it to open. Like, you just right back in. Like it's so amazing that they're doing that now.
Yeah. So with, I told myself, because especially when COVID happened, finding an Xbox, finding a PlayStation was impossible.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who were very dedicated to having one. They like always look for like the new launches.
Yeah.
And so me, I was fine. I had so much content and stuff to do during COVID time. I was still working. Like a lot of people were home, not working, but me, I was still working because I as you all know, I work in HVAC, so I was essential worker. So I was out and about, still doing stuff. So I didn't really have time to sit down and play games like that all the time anymore. Yeah. So it was fine. I was doing stuff. And I told myself, I was like, I was also not going to spend $700 for a console. I was like...
especially knowing what the price is supposed to be.
Yeah, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Did I tell you, just like as a side note, because I feel like this is a really enjoyable story for people to hear, did I tell you what happened to my buddy, my roommate at the time, Sean?
No, what's up?
So he knew somebody that worked at Target, so he knew when they like dropped new, PS5s like on the website, like what time to get on, and he said like, you got to get on the website at like 3:30 a.m. or something. Like that's like specifically the time he was told. So he stayed up
3:30 a.m.
Yeah, he stayed up and then like placed the order right when they popped up. He was like refreshing, and like right when they popped up, he bought one, right? Bought it. And he was like, sweet. And it was ready for pickup the next day. He got a text, hey, Target or notification, hey, come get your PS5. He's like, okay, sweet. He went to the Target, and like I was just chilling at the apartment. And I was excited because he was going to get a PS5. He came back. He's like, oh, I'm so happy. He's like setting it up and stuff. He starts playing it, and like 2 hours later, he gets a notification from Target, hey, come pick up your PS5. He's like, what? And so he calls them, and they're like, no, we have a PS5 here for you. And he's like, I already picked mine up. He's like, well, we have one here for you. And he's like, okay. So he went and he goes and picks it up. They give him another PS5. He comes back home, checks his statement. He was only charged for one.
What?
So he got 2 PS5s. And so one of our buddies also wanted one. So he sold it to our friend. And he was like, he sold it for like the asking price plus like $50 or something. So like he made money off of it. So he literally like made the amount of money for the PS5 that he bought.
He got plus a little bit extra.
PS5. So he got a free PS5. I was like, what? Like when the Oculus Quest came out, apparently Target was shipping the Oculus Quests 2 in a box because they were receiving them with 2 in these boxes, and they didn't know how big they were. So when someone would place an order, they'd just send them the box, and people would open it and have 2, and they were like, what the heck? I only bought 1. So like, it's funny when stuff like this happens because it's like, it obviously sucks for the store, but like you just like
they're big corporations. Screw them, man.
He got a free fault. PS5. I was like, that's insane. Damn, plus he made like $50. So he's like, I got paid $50 to get a PS5. I was like, what the heck? That's just crazy.
That's insane, that's dude. Crazy. See, I don't have that kind of luck, man.
No, I don't
like,
either.
I'd buy a PS5. Like, you owe us a PS5, okay?
Yeah,
like, what?
Yeah, you'd buy a PS5 and they'd charge you twice for one PS5. You'd be like, can I get another one? They're like, no, you got to pay twice for one. Yeah. That's my luck too.
So when they're coming out, like I waited, and then finally, like I decided, like I started feeling like really depressed because I started like working all the time.
Yeah,
and I was really focused on just working and not doing anything like I enjoyed. So my wife was like, well, what makes you happy? And I was like, honestly, I haven't played video games in a year. I was like, I really want to play video games again. She's like, well, play video games. And I was like, well, I could play my PlayStation 4, and I was playing for a little bit, but I was like, I kind of want to play some new stuff. So I was like, well, what can get me back into playing video games like in the newer market? So I bought an Xbox S, and I still have my S. It's actually right next to my monitor right now. And it was really great because then I got really excited because then I bought a really nice monitor. I remember when we were kids and we would play on like big screens, and we thought, big screens was like the thing, the bigger the better, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, ever since I switched to like a nice 28-inch Samsung screen that shoots in 4K.
A monitor too is like is the pinnacle. And it's something that like I didn't ever really do too, because I've only had like my consoles hooked up to a TV because I do PC gaming, so that's where I use my monitors.
Yeah.
But I've seen people use like a monitor with their thing, and I'm like, that's just so much crisper, so much clearer. It's just
It's wild. Like when we play, you and I play Xbox together. Like I know you're playing on your monitor because you're playing on your PC. I'm playing on my Xbox, and I'm like, it's just like, and also being able to just like have it right there in front of you, is great. And like if I ever want to like, hey, like when we're done playing, like, hey, I'm gonna hop off. Cool. Turn off my Xbox, and then I can switch over to my computer. It's right here.
Yeah, it's the monitor, same monitor.
I don't have to worry if I'm going from my living room down to my office.
Yeah.
I'm already just here. Yeah. So it's definitely fun. So I got into playing video games again, and then I was like, I kind of got the hankering. I was like, I'm a Sony boy. I've always been a Sony boy. So I was like, for me, having an Xbox was like, I'm cheating. I'm cheating.
Yeah.
But again, with me being older and wiser, they all have their benefits. There's Xbox games that I love, and there's Sony games I love.
And especially like we were saying with like the iterations, like the Series X and the Series S, like the Series X and the PS5 were the competitors. The Series S is not supposed to compete with the PS5. It's supposed to be like a more affordable, a little less powerful version of the Series X, but it's still like next generation, still better than the Xbox One and stuff. Yeah. And so like, the fact that you didn't really maybe want to shell out money for the PS5 right now, you wouldn't have also wanted to shell out money for the Xbox Series X because it's still probably just about as expensive. Series S was a little bit more available and more affordable. So it's like, why not go for that in the meantime? So yeah.
Which is smart, which I appreciate these companies doing nowadays. Especially, this is another thing why I think Apple needs to take a playbook from Microsoft and Sony because consoles when they first come out they are expensive. 500 usually the kind of I guess the tier that they kind of stick around.
Yeah,
they try to. Then you have the X. The X when it first came out, well, it's 4K. It shoots in 4K. It does all this stuff, so it has a price tag of like $600 to almost $700, and that was the same with the PlayStation 5. So it's like, okay, I get it. The chips are better. The graphics are better. It comes with a price tag for that reason.
Right.
But if you cannot afford the $600 to $700, you're okay. We're going to make a cheaper version.
Right.
It's not going to have all the crazy bells and whistles the X has, but you will still be able to shoot in HD. You will still be able to play with your friends. Right. Just know that you will not have a disc version. You will not be able to buy physical copies, which some people are okay with. Like my nephew wanted an Xbox, and his my sister, his mother, didn't want to get him one because it's just how expensive it was.
Right.
And I told her, I was like, there is options out there for you to buy, and she's like, yeah, I know. Maybe we'll just save up. And he was begging and begging and begging for one. So when his birthday came around and I hadn't seen him in a while, I decided I'd buy him an Xbox. I bought him the Series S because it's cheaper.
Yep.
He doesn't need the X version, he doesn't need all that. Yeah. So
also with the kids too, having the digital copy is actually kind of better because I know when I was a kid, I'd scratch up the discs and stuff that I had on accident, and I thought I was taking good care of my discs, and I ended up getting it scratched or something. Put it on a counter or something for a second and realized it was a horrible idea, and I got scratches. Like it can be better. It's cheaper and it's better for kids also. But
yeah. And I mean the S and Plus, it was like $300.
Yeah.
Compared to the X, it said it's $300 less. So I was like, it's $300. So I bought him that. Then he got a headset for his birthday. So then I bought him a couple games. Like I got him an Xbox Live or Xbox gift card, so he could buy whatever game he wants. And he was happy. He was completely crazy happy because now he gets to play games with his his friends, and it was at a cheaper version. So I'm getting to a point. I'm getting to a point with the story. So like, as me waiting for the PS5, I was like, there has to be games for me to want to play.
Right.
First game that came out that I was really excited to play, but it didn't push me over that edge was God of War. The new God of War, I really wanted to play, but I was like, hey, I can wait. I can wait for it. I can wait. But now that Final Fantasy's coming out, like Final Fantasy 16's out, they have Crisis Core out. That's like the remake of that I played on the PSP, and then you got Rebirth coming out in the fall. I'm like, okay, I think it's time. Yeah. So last night,
let's be honest, you were just waiting for the Final Fantasy stuff. That's what we put you over there.
True, and it did. It really did. It really.
You get all the other games. You're like, but I don't know. Yeah, and then one Final Fantasy comes out. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll buy it too. Okay, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah. So like when my cousin texted me last night, he's like, hey, I bought Final Fantasy 16. It's really good. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy one. And I said to myself, I'm just going to wait. I was going to save up some money. But I actually ended up buying the digital version of the PS5. Mm-hmm. I don't think the specs-wise there's anything different between the digital and the disc version.
That's what I was going to say is I remember because there's the Series S, the Series X for the Xbox, and like one is definitely smaller, definitely digital. And so that's why they got the different price point. And I know they did the same thing with the PS5. One's digital, one's disc. And I know there's a price difference, right? I don't really remember what it was. I don't remember what my buddy got me.
I paid $3.99 for the digital version, plus taxes, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think the disc version was like $5.99.
Yeah, I was gonna say
or $5.99.
I feel like it was considerably more expensive. Like you would imagine.
I think it was $4.99 with just the console.
Yeah.
But then if you wanted to buy like a bundle, like they had a Final Fantasy bundle, which was like $5.26, $5.29 or something like that.
I was gonna say because I know it's like at least like $100 more just to have the disc drive, which you wouldn't think is like $100 more expensive to put that in there, but maybe it is. I have no idea.
But the thing of it is, it's not just like a CD disc drive. It's like
it's true.
It's whatever they're copying them discs on still. Like I don't know if they're still using Blu-ray discs or whatever, so it has to be a specific disc drive that they're using.
Yeah.
And that's why the PS4 and the PS3s were so expensive because they were using Blu-rays, not just CDs.
Right.
Or DVDs, I mean. But yeah, so I bought one last night and it's coming in this week. So I'm really excited. So I have to rethink my whole setup here for the gaming channel because right now I got my Xbox next to me. I've started like clearing out space for my PS5 to go here. I'm probably going to buy a second monitor.
I was going to say, at the very least, you got to have like a 3-port HDMI switch that you can like click 1, 2, or 3 to like switch between them at least, if not get like a second monitor or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. So we definitely, for the gaming channel, you're going to see a lot of different things happening now. Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. I'm rocking all of them. I don't care. I'm not at least to any of them. Yeah. But I'm really excited for the PS5 because, again, I'm a Sony boy, so I'm really kind of happy to kind of get my hands on it again.
Yeah.
We were talking about Final. Okay.
I'd say for just a little side note, and this is like a little plug for me, is if you're getting your PS5 and you're just gonna start playing a couple games, one of the free game that comes on the PS5, Astro's Playroom, is actually really fun. It's kind of like almost like Super Mario Odyssey. I think that was the one that came out on the Switch, right? It's really fun, and it's all PlayStation themed. So it's like you unlock things in like a little like trophy room, and it's like you unlocked like the PS3 Slim, the PS3, and they have like all different kind of little unlocks. So you're like learning about all the Sony stuff and like the Sony history and stuff. And they have like little references to different games, like different Sony games and stuff. It's fun. It's not a very long game probably, but I definitely had a really good time unlocking everything in that. So definitely look into that.
Well, talking about like gaming and streaming. So I'm sure a lot of you all know there's like 3 different streaming platforms to talk about. Like you have the OG Twitch. You know, a lot of people have been on Twitch. Then you got YouTube streaming, which is smart because YouTube has been out for a long time. So for them to get into the streaming game is smart. And then you got the new boy on the block is called Kick. Now, I know this is like weird to say as a nerd, like talking about like streaming service. What does this have to do with like the podcast? Well, it's gaming is nerdy. So if you want to like talk about what streaming service to really play, it's actually kind of interesting. I've been kind of following this story for a while. Twitch apparently, and it's been very controversial, where Twitch had like made a policy to where it cut like 50% of people's like ad or like income revenue.
Yeah.
Like now they can only make 50% of the income compared to what they were making. I don't know what it was before, and a lot of people were very upset. You know, people who make this, like they decided to make this their living, you know, quit their job, become streamers, and, you know, make really well off living on it, have gotten like pretty much hit people at their wallet. And for me, I don't think that's smart, because a lot of people were threatening to jump ship from Twitch to go to either YouTube streaming, and a lot of them are actually jumping ship to Kick now, because Kick apparently is like paying people like 95% of the equity that they make off their videos, where they take a little bit kickback.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's not something that maybe everybody was thinking about going forward with like people. I feel like gaming has been such a thing that like people have just viewed as like kids play video games, and like it hasn't really been taken seriously. Like now we got esports and stuff that's like really being like, hey, people make a living doing this stuff. Like this is professional level stuff. The fact that there are streamers out there, and like YouTube and stuff also open that door where like people just making videos, just like funny videos, whatever kind of videos, they make their living off of that. And it was so hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around it. I'm sure people in like Congress and stuff are like, you know, like we're not going to make laws around people, you know, making videos on YouTube, you know, whatever. And like, so it's interesting that like Twitch would do that, because it's like almost as if you kind of did that to Uber. You know, Uber's like, we're not going to, you know, pay people. We're going to pay people like a quarter of what we used to pay them to drive around.
Yeah.
Like this is my only job. You know, I only do Uber and Lyft. And it's like, now I don't have a revenue source. Like, what am I supposed to do? That's my job, you know? And so it's like, it's weird to kind of pull that away from people who have been doing this.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder why. Like, why would you do that? Like, are they trying to be money grabby, where they're like, hey, you're using our platform, so we're going to take it. We're going to split it 50-50.
Yeah, you know, like it could be a money grab. It could be that it wasn't profitable for them for a long time and they have to make a change. It could be any number of things, but it's, you know, at a point they have to realize what they have done to people who have been using their platform. And again, it's kind of like a loyalty thing. Like some people, when Twitch came out, like that has been their entire thing. Like they've only used Twitch to stream, and they've gone super successful, make a bunch of money off of it, and that's their revenue. And like, anytime Twitch comes out with something new, any kind of, you know, I don't even know, like functionality or something, I'm sure those people using it that are streaming with it will probably plug it, because they're just like, I love Twitch. That's how I make my money. I'll show off the things that they're using, the things that they change. And so like to now take that away, all these people who have been loyal to them are going to be like, I'm not going to use you anymore. You know, like, yeah.
I had a Twitch when I first started up the gaming channel, and it was definitely interesting. But I'm not loyal to either, or I think it's just very interesting what people are doing. So like, and to be fair, Kick is kind of controversial because it's backed by like gambling, like executives and stuff like that, which Twitch can't say anything because they have gambling on their site as well.
Yeah.
And that's how they make a lot of their revenue as well. So I don't understand where people were kind of getting like crazy with the whole gambling thing.
Yeah.
But they're throwing a lot of money at people, like a lot of these big streamers, and cutting them deals to come over to Kick.
Yeah.
And I guess they feel like since they're such a small entity now, that if they start getting a lot of these big names, more people are going to start going to Kick and start doing that.
And with the whole thing with Twitch, a lot of people are already looking to leave Twitch. So if Kick is going to offer them a good deal to come over there, they might just take it, you know?
Yeah. Me personally, I did have a Kick set up, but I, with all this stuff going on, I kind of maybe not getting nervous, but I kind of want to keep everything kind of in-house. So with YouTube streaming, I kind of decided that I might stick to just YouTube stream, because what made it interesting was that when you YouTube stream, like live stream, like as you're playing games and stuff like that, all your videos are kind of already getting pre-uploaded to the channel. So like you have your thumbnails already pre-made, you have your titles already made, and descriptions and stuff like that. So like once you're done streaming, it already uploads your video. So there's like no thought or extra steps involved.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's why, and from what I saw, like YouTube streaming has a big following. A lot of people already use it. They still have like the chat stuff on there and stuff
especially
like that. So
if you already have like multiple channels, like with the podcast and then the gaming. Like there are some people like Mr. Beast has like 7 or 8 different like channels for different languages and different things. Like it probably makes things ways. It's almost like the Apple ecosystem where everything kind of like works together. Like you have this all pre-populating and stuff. Like that's I could see why that's definitely worthwhile.
And for someone like me, like who spends a lot of their time coming up with ideas and like editing and all this other stuff and like making thumbnails and doing all this stuff as a editor, definitely takes a lot of the process out, which I like, because then it saves up more free time to either play games or create other content for this podcast and stuff. So that's why I'm kind of sticking to, I know I kind of seem wishy-washy, like which one is he really trying to do? But I'm still trying to figure it out. But I think YouTube streaming is like my thing where I might try to stick to, because it just overall keeps it all in one platform.
And I'd say it's a good future-proofing platform, just because, YouTube has been around for so long. The streaming
it's not going
portion,
anywhere.
Yeah, the streaming portion might be new, but having YouTube as the backing for it, like Twitch it was something that came out of nowhere and like has become so big that now that they've made this decision, you might see them start to tank over time. Kick being brand new, it could go up, it could go down with all the controversy. YouTube streaming isn't really going anywhere. It's probably just going to consistently be there. So it's
kind of like the safer route for me. Yeah. And that's why I kind of want to do it. But I know it sounds weird being safe. No, you don't really, big people don't really get far being safe. But me personally, it's more of a time saving thing for me. That's why I'm doing it. So so be on the lookout. I think we can end it there, man. We did pretty good. So check out the gaming channel, YouTube, the Nerdy Mind Gaming on YouTube. Videos are uploaded on Saturdays, and I'm actually uploading another video on Sundays too. So I'm gonna try to do 2 on the weekend. So be on the lookout for those. Me and Jason been playing a little bit of Phasmophobia, been playing a little bit of Fall Guys. We actually stopped playing Phasmophobia because our hearts couldn't take too much more. I felt like I was going to go on cardiac arrest.
Going forward, I think there's a big update coming in August. I think July they're kind of changing some stuff. August, I don't know if you've seen this or if we've talked about it either, but Phasmophobia is coming out on consoles in August. So it won't just be a PC game anymore. You'll have access to cross-play and stuff on consoles. They're coming out with a big update with new items and stuff, and so we'll probably play it again once that happens, so we can kind of see what's going on, get a little bit more feel for it. But for the time being, it is a little much. So we're kind of pivoting to some more fun, lighthearted multiplayer games. So I'm sure we'll change to some other games and stuff too. But yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're not gonna play horror stuff. We do love playing it. We love scaring the crap out of ourselves, but we just giving it a little break for a second. So be on the lookout. We're actually recording this on Saturday today. So a new episode of the game has been uploaded. So go check it out. New episodes of the podcast come out on Tuesdays, as I mentioned before. If you want to watch the video version, go to the YouTube channel, The Nerdy Mind, or you can listen to the audio versions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many others. If you want to, go to the one-stop shop called thenerdymind.com, is where you can see all the social medias. You can go and see the podcast hub to see all the streaming services we're on. All you have to do is click on them, and then it takes you to the actual podcast itself. I have videos of the channel up there to where it can redirect you to our channel as well. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop. Talks about a little bit about myself and what I do. It's very fun stuff. But Jason, thank you for coming on the podcast as always.
Anytime.
And to you all, stay nerdy, my friends.